I will tell you a simple method of achieving this. Having attained external purity, and whatever internal purity possible, you should sit in solitude, in darkness, and close your eyes. Try to have no thought crossing your mind. That is, try to have solitude of mind. Then try to have the form of God or a saint in your mind. Spend as much time as possible to see him within your mind. In the morning and evening, every day, at least try to spend 15 minutes this way. As that form gets fixed in your mind, you will experience that your own Chaitanya enters into that form and in course of time becomes one with it. It is then that you will experience that form capable of moving and talking. Sometimes you may see it standing before you and talking to you. In due course, you experience the qualities and power of that God or saint you have been doing dhyana of, slowly infused in your own self. It means you now become one with the God, or the Satpurusha. His qualities, power, and his state become yours. This is the method of obtaining a real photograph. In fact, such is the photograph you should try for. This is a simple procedure, and has been experienced by many as being effective. A woman devotee brought a bottle containing some medicines for Sri Baba. He changed over to that subject. If I am ill, many bring here bottles of medicine, but nobody shows any bhava and bhakti. What is the utility of these medicines you bring? Can you bring some faith and devotion? What of me if one of your own family members becomes ill, and as the doctor is not able to cure him, the case becomes hopeless? If somebody now comes forth and says that if an ounce of faith and devotion could be available, the case could be cured, can you put forth in the bottle that much of faith and devotion? Faith and devotion are not for sale that you can buy or procure. They are always with you, but because they are expended away in procuring various objects of the world, you have none to spare in the cause of God, or for curing a sick member of your family. That is why the sickness cannot be cured. In days of old, even dead persons were brought back to life with faith and devotion. If a doctor cannot cure a case, then God should be taken as a doctor, and then naturally one has to give him all that he demands to get the case cured. Bhava and bhakti are the principal items of his demand. Faith and devotion are able to cure even the leader of all diseases, the bhavaroga. What of other ailments then? The body is not a very good thing. It is always like a dilapidated house. It is like an effigy. An effigy is built up of bamboo sticks bound together with ropes and glue. The bones in the body are like those bamboos. The muscles, etc., are like the ropes, and the blood is like glue. The glue is made out of wheat, rice, etc. The blood also is derived from the same. Just as ordinary papers are first stuck on and then the outer colored glazed paper is used to make the effigy look beautiful, in the same way many membranes clothe the body from within, and then it is covered over by the beautiful skin. Then again the body is covered over with beautiful, costly, and rich clothes by you to enhance its external beauty. How careful a human being is about his external appearance, how they exert to beautify the body. The ever-changing fashion of the hair and dress, both in men and women, you are seeing every day. What number and designs of ornaments people use. Are they really necessary? Some of the professionals, like doctors and pleaders, use a pair of spectacles as a fashion these days. Their eyes are normal, but they say a pair of spectacles makes an impression. Like exerting to beautify the effigy, people are all engrossed in beautifying the body. The pair of spectacles reminds me of an incident which is worth remembering, and I will tell you about it. This is the story of a pleader we knew well. This pleader, while a boy, was very intelligent and poor. While in primary school, one of the old teachers began to take great interest in him due to his intelligence. He taught him a good bit out of school hours. The boy also responded well. He used to pass all examinations with high number of marks. This old teacher was thus responsible for the sound basic knowledge of the boy, over whom he had taken great pains. The boy joined the colleges and ultimately passed his law. He then opened his rooms as a pleader in a big city. He furnished his room fashionably. He used to dress also fashionably and to sit in his rooms waiting for clients. As a matter of fashion, even though his eyes were normal, He used to wear a pair of spectacles. Knowing this, once we asked him if something had gone wrong with his eyes. He replied in the negative. We further asked him if he used them to impress his clients, and then we told him that such use of spectacles was no good, it would harm his eyes. That old primary school teacher of his was very proud of this boy, who had now become a pleader. That old man was too simple. Once one of his neighbors had a quarrel with him, and later involved him in a criminal case. The poor old man got very much upset and frightened. He could not understand what to do. He went without food that day due to this anxiety. Late in the afternoon, he suddenly remembered that the boy he took interest in had begun to practice as a pleader and decided to approach him. Barefooted and bareheaded, the old man simply ran towards his rooms with all hope that he will get the necessary redress and help. The pleader was sitting alone, dressed fashionably, in his rooms. The moment this teacher approached his door, he knew who he was, but he turned his eyes away and would not even look at the old man. The old man sat outside the door crying. The pleader had gone proud and had forgotten that all his present position was really due to the efforts of this poor old teacher of his. This day happened to be a Sunday, a holiday. Near about this time I and a few other friends, also went to this pleader to call on him. At the door, we saw the poor man silently shedding tears. We felt pity and asked him as to what was the matter. He told the whole story and said that he had come there with all confidence that he would get the necessary advice and help, and then with appealing cry he said that he was shunned by his old student, for whom he had done so much. Then he requested us to help him out of the difficulty. We entered in and asked the pleader about it. He admitted that the old man was his teacher in primary school, but he had nothing to do with him now. Then we turned round on him, spoke to him very sharply, made him conscious of the invaluable obligations done by the old man. The pleader then climbed down and called in the old man. The old man and we again rebuked him severely. Ultimately, the pleader gave him all the help the old man needed. The moral of the story is that a worldly person develops pride, vanity, and ingratitude as he grows, for nothing. To turn back to our subject, the effigy-like body is being constantly looked after, cared for, and beautified with all the efforts possible. Like the effigy being destroyed by drowning or burning, this body of ours is also destroyed at death. We never know when this body will leave us. It is much better then to remember the name of God constantly, increase one's faith and devotion, behave in accordance with one's faith, and remain healthy and naturally beautiful. In good old days, where were the doctors? People relied on the satkarmas and faith, and got themselves relieved of all difficulties. The Muslims believe in the formless, and yet they erect tabuts, huge mosque-like structure built out of bamboo sticks, etc., well decorated, installed, and immersed in water after a certain number of days and worship them. We build temples. They build mosques. Whether we or they, we have all to worship the form. The religion of the Muslims is as good as any. Now here is something you should well remember. If the Muslims strictly behave according to their religion, and the Brahmanas do likewise, then in the end, as a result of the punya they accumulate, they exchange their parts, the Muslim becomes a Brahmana in due course, and through that body attains the Brahma. In the same way the Brahmana becomes a Muslim, a Sai Molla, and with the devotion to the formless attains the state of Brahma. Subsequently, both of them unite into one and pass beyond the state of Advaita. In other words, the original one turned into two opposite faiths which again unite into one to return to its original state of one, the infinite bliss. In the beginning, there was only one. Being one, it could not experience its own state of bliss. That one then began to evolve itself till it reached the stage of the human form, to experience and to return to its original status. It has to assume and experience the opposite dual aspects, that of pleasure and pain. The one Atma evolves itself into a Brahmana and a Muslim, and having reached the limit of their respective faiths, these two have to exchange their parts to experience the opposite aspect. Having thus experienced both the aspects, they again unite into one, and pass beyond all, the Dvanva, and Advanva, to the original state of one. It was the one Atma which had assumed both the roles. When the two opposite roles are experienced, he goes beyond both and now can reside in any form, Brahmana or Muslim, and remain constantly in that one aspect, the infinite bliss. It is then once again the same all-powerful Atma. Two opposite faiths became essential for him to experience his own original state of bliss. It is these faiths that form the Dvanvas, otherwise there would have been no Dvanvas. If anybody belonging to any faith goes on strictly following that faith, he begins to get into higher and higher states subsequently, and in the end attains that state of one, the infinite bliss. In short, what is most essential is to strictly follow one's own faith, and the rest is automatic. One of the devotees said that he walked from Chitali to arrive there about 12 miles. On this, Sri Baba said, everybody, really speaking, has got enough strength to do anything, but due to the feeling of one's position and the pride thereof, that strength does not become effective or useful. One cannot raise a pail of water from the well when one is thirsty. One does not feel inclined to go to the bazaar and buy and bring some vegetables or grocery for oneself. It is the pride in the form of shame that comes in the way even in worldly life. What of spiritual then? I have once told you the story of a Mamaladhara. The poor have no pride. They do not consider themselves to be something, and hence they are able to use their strength. When I was not having any food, and was doing all manual labor, plowing, drawing water, breaking stones, milling the flour, etc., people used to question me as to how I could work like that. All that labor of mine was done in the open, and many have seen me doing it. The moment the pride, the ahankara, is done away with, one gets all the necessary strength automatically. The physical strength of yours is due to the food you eat. All the food is artificial, and hence your strength also is artificial. It is not natural. You have to come here to lose all the pride and vanity. The ahankara of all shades, once it is liquidated, you get the natural strength automatically. To lose ahankara, you have to do away with the feeling of shame of undertaking any work, physical or mental, in the cause of God. As the sense of shame and the ahankara responsible for it decrease in the cause of God, that natural power automatically begins to infuse in you. That is the Siddhanta. You told me that you walked down to this place, but let me tell you that even Parsi ladies, who never walked, have walked on foot to this place many a time. It is such persons who get the fruits of pilgrimage. At this moment Mrs. Gulabai arrived from Nagar. Here is Gulabai, I was just talking about her. She belongs to higher society. She never walks barefooted even in her house. But when she came here, she set aside her social status and, along with her children, did the manual labor in transporting bricks, lime, etc., while the temple was being built. She exerted in every way, physically, mentally, and monetarily. She brought her pride under control. Now, you people come here having read the pravachanas and complain that you had to walk all the way. You could not get any transport. You could not get a room to stay, and so on. Men who were rich and who offered plenty of money lived in whatever space was available and never complained. You people come here, make complaints, and over and above that, you demand that your desires be satisfied. When I ask you to take part in something, you say you cannot do it because of this and that, and avoid it. You force me to say that you would be all right. Naturally, the only reply I can give is God will look to it. 6. Today is a very important and auspicious day. Today is Mahashivaratra Day. Shiva represents the pure Parabrahma state. The great yogis are constantly trying to turn the jiva into Shiva, that is, unite the jiva with Shiva. Whichever jiva becomes Shiva, that jiva has made its life worthwhile. This is the day in commemoration of that Shiva. The night of this day in particular is of great importance. The yogis utilize this night for effecting union with Shiva. For the yogis, the day represents the night. Whatever is done during the day by them, they get the results of having worked during the night, and the night is after all the night. In any way, try to unite with Shiva. Some people offer a continuous stream of water on the head of Shiva. Some use milk for the purpose. At Omkareshvara, rupees are utilized for the purpose. If you have come here because of Mahashivaratra, then utilize the day in the best way you can. Your Atma turned into Jiva because it got attached to the worldly ways of life. To get out of it and regain your original state, utilize your reasoning, mind and Jiva in the cause of Shiva. The state of Shiva is the causeless state, what is called Vinakarana state. Out of the various epithets of Shiva, the word Vinakarana is one. It means without any cause or causeless. That means there is no feeling of doer, nor of any action, or it can be called an actionless state. If you do whatever you do without any cause, any motive, then you will be able to attain the state of Shiva. If you come here with any motive, then you would not reap the fruit of the causeless state. When you want to do something from a particular motive, it must be done according to the rules for that purpose. Otherwise, it would not bear any fruit. It is like nurturing a tree properly to enable us to have its fruit. Whatever is done without any motive is taken to be in the cause of God. Whatever is to be done in the cause of God must be without any motive, must be without a cause, that is Vinakarana. Such Vinakarana leads one beyond the cycle of births and deaths. To attain the state of the causeless, it is better to go to a Satpurusha, or a place of pilgrimage. If you have come here to attain that causeless state, then act accordingly and get the fruit thereof. 100. If you have come here to attain that causeless state, then act accordingly and get the fruit thereof. 128. U. 5th Fee, May 9, 1924. 1. All objects are the transformations of the mind, and hence, no mind means no world. 2. Method to stabilize the mind. 3. The quality of one's own experience beyond the world. 1. All the objects that are seen in the world are really speaking non-existent. They are only the transformations of one's own mind. That is the Siddhanta. Again, there is nothing like mind when we begin to feel the necessity of something other than ourselves, i.e. of the world and the various objects in and of the world. Then to utilize them, to understand them, we transform ourselves into the state of the mind. That means the objects are the transformations of the mind, and thinking about them, utilizing them, is done by the mind. The world is an aggregation of various things. The body is an aggregation of various parts. There can be no body without organs. In the same way, if there are no objects, the world would not be experienced. When can the objects of the world be not experienced? They would not be experienced only when one's mind, that transforms itself into those objects, or that causes them, brings them into being, becomes itself non-existent, inactive or stabilized. At the same time, from others' point of view, the world and its objects would be existent. In the case of the persons who have attained this no-mind state, the mind does not transform itself into objects, and naturally does not think about them. As such, to such persons the world becomes non-existent. If every person in the world attains this state, then the world would be completely non-existent. All will remain then in the state of that infinite bliss and will merge into that all-pervading formless one. This is aptly described in one small sentence in the Vedas, Eko Aham Bahusyam. In the light of this sentence, the state of many, Bahu, will disappear and will give rise to one Eka. Even if one person attains that highest state, he takes himself to be Eko Aham, I am one. When he becomes conscious of the world, he at once knows that he, who was only one, has now become Bahusyam, many. In other words, he knows that whether that one or many, he is all that. I need no more hide my state from you. I am myself in this state. When I am in the state opposite to that of the world, I become one and go on enjoying that pure, singular, infinite bliss. When I come round from your point of view, I experience myself to be pervading all, forming all. Instability, ceaseless activity of mind gives rise to objects. Objects are known through the eyes, the senses. When the pupil in the eye becomes unstable, then alone a person is able to see. and with the help of his mind know the object. The instability of the pupil depends on the instability of the mind, and due to this, objects are seen. If the pupil would not move like that, the mind also would not move. Conversely, if the mind becomes stable, the pupil would also become stable. Then the objects will not be seen by the eyes, and the mind would not know them. Not to be able to see any objects is the result of the mind becoming stable. When no objects are seen, then in front of the eyes utter darkness alone is experienced. So long as the darkness is seen and experienced, the pupil and the mind have not become fully stable with that darkness in front. Their fickleness movement is almost imperceptible. It is this darkness that brings forth the whole creation. It is this darkness that has been named Adimaya, Adishakti, or the primordial Prakriti. 2. To fix up the pupil, many persons try to fix their eyes on an object. This object should have such godly qualities as calmness, softness, sattvakata, and stability. That is why it is customary to have an idol of a loving and lovely form of God. Some people use a ghee lamp and look at its flame. As this study of looking at the flame in a fixed way reaches its full measure, the pupil almost loses its instability, and the object or flame looked at is seen to disappear. Subsequently, the pupil becomes absolutely stable, and with this, the mind also becomes stable. At this stage, whatever was lying outside the mind becomes one with ourselves. It is like the ice machine. If this machine gets out of order, no ice can be made. So far it is in order, it will make ice, that is, give a solid form to the water. In the same way, when the mind becomes absolutely stable, then one becomes unable to see the solidified part of the formless. When the mind or the pupil begins to move, the world at once becomes apparent. If the mind is thus stabilized and the one object in front becomes unseeable, the whole world disappears. It is not that one has to look at every object that way and make it unseeable. When the mind becomes fully stable, then the world is not seen, that is, all thoughts about anything in and of the world automatically cease. Naturally the pleasure and pain thereof, and the body that suffers from them become non-existent. That means the root cause of all these, that utter darkness, the primordial Prakriti, merges into oneself, and with this what remains is ourselves alone. Ourselves without any form and feeling. How can one experience oneself in such a state? If the different objects in the world, so also light and darkness that are experienced, become non-existent, what would be the state of things? One can only experience whatever may be there, and that can be put forth this way. That state cannot be experienced by the body, the mind, and the buddhi. That is so because these three are habituated only to experience the world. Prior to all this coming into being, that state was experienced, and even though nothing out of that experience is any more remembered, it is that very experience that has to be taken as the means to experience it once again. And what is that? That is that experienceless in every way, the original Sat-Chit Ananda state of ourselves, having taken the human form as the ultimate form in and of the evolution of this world from the Maya, from the Prakriti, which burst forth into existence spontaneously from ourselves, and now having fully stabilized the mind, and thus having made everything to merge in ourselves, we return to our original state. That is, we experience, or rather, become that experienceless, consciousless, original, Satchitananda state. We experience ourselves only, that is all. We ourselves are self-luminous, and our real nature is infinite unending bliss, and that is what we experience, or rather that is what we become. We originally were that. Now, having descended to the human form and having retraced our steps in a retrograde way, we once more reach that original state. What is the difference between these two states of ours? The original ourselves had no experience of ourselves, in spite of ourselves being Satchitananda, the unending infinite bliss. We had not experienced that we ourselves were all that. In the other case, having ascended to our own original state, after having descended to the human state, that is, as a human being having experienced ourselves in the form of the world, we are now able to experience our own real original sublime state, as opposed to our experiencing ourselves in the form of the world. It is to experience our own real state that we had to evolve ourselves in the form of the world and experience the world. It thus becomes essential to experience the world first, and then experience our own real state. The experience of the world, that is the pleasure and pain thereof, that is the play of the Maya, the illusory, non-existent Prakriti, is only the means to experience that original unending infinite bliss. Having now attained the infinite bliss with the help of the Prakriti, one can now transform himself in a split second directly into any form, human or otherwise, without having to pass through the usual process of embryonic development, and remain with or without that infinite supernatural power, into that unending infinite bliss. That state resembles deep sleep. In deep sleep the whole world merges in oneself, and on being awake one is again able to see one's body and the world. In deep sleep one is not able to experience anything good or bad. One is completely ignorant of the world. The state of unending bliss resembles the deep sleep, but differs in one point. During the deep sleep the man is conscious of nothing, while in this state he is actually experiencing that infinite bliss, that self-luminous state. That infinite supernatural power is evident. Of course, one may make use of it or not. A person who has attained that state is the real knower. Having all knowledge, he is the yogi, the Mahasatpurusha, the all-powerful. I am explaining to you actually what I am experiencing. You can find this subject in any books on Vedanta, or in Upanishads. Those that are qualified and listen to this talk will be benefited. They will experience that their minds are getting purified, gradually enabling them to qualify for that infinite bliss. 1. The creation and continuance of the world, due to the Dvanvas emerging from Prakriti. 2. The origin of the original Prakriti. 3. Prakriti, a help in self-realization. 4. Qualifications to understand spiritual secrets. 5. Method of attaining stability of mind and experiencing the self-luminous state. 6. The author of the world drama. 1. The creation and continuance of this world is due to the pairs of antagonistic opposite states, the Dvanvas. It is the Prakriti that gives rise to Dvanvas. That original Prakriti is devoid of all Dvanvas and is invisible and self-existent, but it evolves into pairs of Dvanvas and becomes visible for carrying on the affairs of the world. Its evolution has reached its limit in the creation of the human form. Take an example of a party of men. Somehow a discussion about a subject crops up, and immediately the party becomes divided into two camps. One camp puts forth its arguments and proves the point. The opposite camp at once protests, gives counter-arguments smashing those of the first, and asserts its opinion. The first party at once bursts forth to smash the other, and so on. These two camps, that are now opposed to each other, originally belonged to one party, one group only. For the purpose of discussion, the group got split up into two camps. Take another hypothetical example. It is a peculiar belief that a crow has a pair of eyes but only one pupil. When that pupil comes to the right eye can see, the left remaining blind. When it enters the left is able to see, the right remaining blind. In the same way, in the above example of a party, when that one Prakriti possesses the first camp, that camp argues and proves its point. When the same Prakriti leaves the first and possesses the other camp smashes the arguments of the first and asserts its opinion, and so on. It is the invisible Prakriti that becomes visible with all its dual qualities, in the form of or through the human beings. Even though it becomes visible only in the form of its dual qualities, through the human beings, the Prakriti as such always retains its original one, indivisible essence in a human being in the form of discriminative reasoning, sadasad viveka buddhi. It transcends beyond all the duals and reveals its original blissful state. It is the Prakriti, thus with its Dvanvas, that manifests itself as the play of this world. You can think of the universe as a machine. Just as in a machine so many movements take place simultaneously and, as it were, autonomously, in the same way, so many movements are going on in one and the same vast world. The pleasure and pain, The two principal states experienced in this world are the two aspects, the dual aspects of the same one Prakriti. In fact, it could be said that they together constitute the action with its result of the dual aspects of one and the same Prakriti. This is going on from time immemorial. The original one Prakriti that gives rise to all these duals, the Dvandvas, is eternal, that is, it is indestructible. Some will say that Prakriti has been described as destructible. How can it be said then to be indestructible? Well, it can be described as both destructible and indestructible. Without any action taking place, a pair of opposite actions are seen occurring, the results of which are felt and experienced. This is the work, the show of the Prakriti. On account of this wonderful apparent show without any foundation that she is able to present, she has been given the name Prakriti. Sometimes she presents one aspect prominently and sometimes the other. When these opposite qualities become visible or are experienced, then alone one feels the presence of the Prakriti. If those qualities disappear, obviously, her presence is not felt. In the former her presence is felt, and in the latter her presence is not felt. That is to say, in the former she is taken as indestructible, and in the latter as destructible. It is the show that she presents that disappears, is destroyed, and not the Prakriti herself. Her nature is such that sometimes her show is on, and sometimes not. It means that she is neither destructible nor indestructible. It is only when we feel that way, we call her destructible or indestructible. But she is neither. What for this Prakriti came into existence? For the continuance of this world, the Dvandvas are essential, and the Dvandvas emanate only from Prakriti. That is how Prakriti becomes essential and comes into being. The dual aspect of the same one Prakriti has been named as Purusha Prakriti and Stri Prakriti. It is these two Prakritis that push forth the different Dvandvas in this world. All these opposite pairs, the Dvandvas, should always be treated as illusory and hence as untrue and destructible. From time immemorial, these two Prakritis are playing their role in this world. Or, it could be said that the one Prakriti is playing a double role. All the affairs in the world, ultimately leading to the feeling of pleasure or pain, are managed or are due to the various Dvandvas, and all these illusory Dvandvas are put forth by the Purusha and Stri Prakritis, that is, by that one indestructible and eternal Prakriti on the moral support of the original one, which is not conscious of anything. What this or these Prakritis are doing, to what their actions are leading, of all this that original one, the eternal infinite, is not conscious. In fact, it is not even conscious of the Prakriti emanating from itself. What of her working then, or its moral support? That eternal infinite, the one only being consciousness itself, cannot naturally be conscious of anything else. How then this Prakriti came into being? That Brahma, the infinite, exists by itself as one only. There is nothing else in existence. But the moment we say this, in addition to the eternal one only, this assertion of nothing else existing came into being, it is this, nothing else existing, as opposed to existence only, that forms the eternal original one, Prakriti. Nothing else existing can be said only when there is something existing, not otherwise. That means the state of nothing else existing entirely depends on the state of something existing. That is why it is described that the original eternal one Prakriti came into being on the moral support of the one only, the eternal infinite, the Brahma. It is the same eternal one Prakriti on the moral support of the one Brahma, which evolved itself into the first Dvandva, the Purusha Prakriti and the Stri Prakriti, which two become apparent in the world only when their qualities assumed visible forms capable of being seen or experienced by us. Whatever is felt or experienced in the world is nothing else but a manifestation of the one eternal Prakriti. If all the things that are felt or experienced in the world are completely disregarded, overlooked, not taken into account at all, then one can only experience that one only, the consciousness itself, the eternal, the infinite, the Sat Chitananda, the Brahma, that is all and nothing else. As a human being we can experience that state of one only due to that is as opposed to the prakriti we experience, with all its opposite dual qualities. In fact, the human prakriti, the human form was evolved, that is, was brought into existence for experiencing the state of that one only. Once, with the help of the human prakriti, the human form, one is able to forget everything else. The show of the world brought into existence by the infinite number of dvanvas arising from the original prakriti, and experience that original, the one only, the pure infinite Sat Chit Ananda, then one can remain in an immortal eternal state in a self-luminous invisible body, with the support of that invisible original, the pure one prakriti. In the world, however, due to ignorance, a human being, without considering these things, the origin of all the pairs of opposites, the dvanvas, such as pleasure and pain, this and that, mine and thine, etc., takes into account and believes in the various things seen in this world. Things put forth by that is the result of the various dvanvas. With this belief firmly held, he gets into ahankara, ego, pride, and with its self-propelling force, goes on multiplying the dvanvas. The result of this action of his is that instead of experiencing his original state of one, Sat Chit Ananda, he gets fully involved amongst the dvanvas, created by his own ahankara, ego, and thus has to bear their ultimate effect, the feelings of pleasure and pain, through an unending series of births and deaths. To enable oneself to experience one's original state of Sat Chit Ananda, one has to fully overlook all the dvanvas giving rise to pleasure and pain, and have recourse to only such dvanvas as will enable one to have that experience. Such dvanvas are recognized as spiritual or godly type of dvanvas. The spiritual set of dvanvas means the mode of life and behavior, according to one's own faith dharma, with all faith and devotion. The various satkarmas that lead to attainment of godhood constitute these dvanvas. By following this set of dvanvas, one is able to fully overlook all the other dvanvas and attain that immortal eternal state. This is the Siddhanta. Sri Krishna has described the importance of this way. Shreyan svadharmo viguna paradharmat svanashtitad. Svadharma nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. Gita, Canto 3 Shloka 35. For the meaning, refer to any book on Gita. Pain, being the product of Prakriti, they are really speaking non-existent, that is illusory. The flame of a lamp continuously emits rays of light which from a practical point of view disappear as they get away from the flame. Even if these rays as they are emitted give the light and disappear, the flame or rather the lamp remains there. That is, the lamp and the observer do not disappear like those rays. In the same way, the infinite number of dvanvas and their results disappear, but the Prakriti, along with the Atma, who experiences those dvanvas, remain as they are. It is the lamp that is puka, compared to the rays, and hence the rays have to be overlooked. In the same way, all the dvanvas in the world, the various manifested qualities of the Prakriti, the objects of desire and passion, should be disregarded. Then they will not be able to attract, and the pleasure and pain, the ultimate effects thereof, will not be able to affect, because the qualities of the Prakriti, the dvanvas, and the objects of desire and passion are constantly observed and accepted. People get engulfed in them, and thus happen to get entangled in endless number of births, and thereby fail to experience their original state of Sat Chit Ananda. It thus becomes necessary to disregard all the dvanvas and their results emerging from the illusory Prakriti. It simply means that you people should not base your life on them. Just as we disregard the rays of the light whether emerging from a lamp or the sun but only take advantage of the light emitted by them, in the same way, when we disregard the various dvanvas emerging from the Prakriti, we are able to take advantage of the original eternal Prakriti to enjoy that eternal bliss. Like the Prakriti, the bliss emerging from it is also eternal. In fact, that Prakriti emanates from ourselves to make us enjoy that infinite Ananda. which happens to be the real form of ours. It is through her that we are able to enjoy the bliss. Of course, if we desire to enjoy the bliss, we can do so only through her. If we do not desire, then we shall not be able even to experience her, even though she be about us. It is like the lighted lamp, which we do not experience during sleep. During sleep we are not able to know if the lamp is lighted or extinguished. If you are there willing to be experienced by yourself, then that Prakriti is there to give you that experience. As you are originally, you are not conscious of your own self. The consciousness that you have about yourself, and the various actions you do, are all due to that Prakriti. It has been said in Gita, about Prakriti, Prakritiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvasha, ya pashyati tatmanam akartardam sa pashyati. Gita, Canto 13, Shloka 29. We who are the pure Atma do nothing. We are actionless in every way, all actions and consciousness of having done or experienced them. All this is done by us through the medium of the Prakriti. A person who sees through this is the real seer. This is the meaning of the above couplet in short, just as even when the sun is steady, and all other planets including this earth are constantly moving around it, we on the earth feel and experience ourselves to be steady, and all others, the planets and the sun, moving around us, in the same way, even when we are steady and actionless in every way. And it is the Prakriti that plays all around us. We feel that we are doing all those actions. We take on ourselves that we do them. That is, we take to the ahankara about doing them, and that is exactly where and how we deceive ourselves. 4. These are all subtle thoughts, those that have very sharp and mature reasoning, or that are well on the way in this line, or that have deep satsanskaras, virtuous impressions accumulated through various births, are alone able to understand the meaning of the opposite dual aspects of the one Prakriti, her origin, effects of her actions, etc., and the purpose of her coming into being. Most of the people are just superficial thinkers. They have not got that vision and imagination. They are used to gross physical body, and to experience gross physical objects and things. Such men cannot understand these subtle thoughts. He who has attained that invisible godly state can alone understand all this correctly. Even if such a man begins to explain all these deep, subtle spiritual thoughts in the simplest language and manner, others are not able to understand. Not only they do not understand, but they misinterpret and misrepresent all that they hear, and are likely to cause unnecessary disaster. That is why it has been ordained that such thoughts should not be made open to one and all. They should be told only to those who are qualified to hear and understand them. Gita says about this, Idam te natapaskaya nabhaktaya kadachana, nachashushusha vacham nachamam yobya suyati. Canto 18 Shishi 7, meaning the subtle secrets about this world or God, should never be told to those who do not have any penance, anushtanas, faithful conduct, satkarmas, etc., to their credit, who have no liking for God, who do not like to serve God with love, who hate the idea of God, who take themselves to be equal to God. In Ganapati Atharvashirsha, also it has been said, Idam Atharvashirshama Shishyaya Nadayam, meaning, the subtle secrets about God contained in the Upanishads should not be told to those who are not qualified, who are not disciples. Tukarama has said, Tuka mahane yete pahije jatiche, yera gabalache kamanohe, meaning, to understand this you require one belonging to the same class. Others are no good to understand this. In short, these thoughts should be told to those that are qualified. Others are not able to grasp and understand due to their poor undeveloped reasoning. Such persons always misunderstand and cause all-round trouble, that is all. Now what is meant by qualified? How to know that a person is qualified? That man is taken to be qualified, who implicitly trusts what the Guru is told or ordered, and bears not the least doubt about it in his mind even if he has to ask a difficulty. It is always consistent with the order given to him. His devotion to his Guru is unflinching, unwavering under any circumstances. His mind, attitude, and behavior is simple, straightforward, trustworthy, tender, and of loving type. He feels no interest in the ways and affairs of the world, and so on. Such a person is a qualified person, and anybody can develop these qualities in himself. Whatever is spoken by me comes to me from some of you and is returned back to you through me and then my head. My mind again remains vacant as it was. It is like a dry stream.